Well, hey, Margaret, how are you?
Hey, Lynette, doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Hey, listen, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I am super excited to have you. For all the listeners out there, Margaret is, Margaret and I met, I guess about 2 years ago, right when we were both starting our programs. And so I wanted to bring you on the show today for a couple of reasons. One, I think you're doing some really great work for midlife women who are looking to, maybe find a different place to live. And I want you to get into that. But I also wanted to bring you on because I think a lot of people think, starting a side hustle isn't, or is, well, it's possibly that they think it's difficult. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've had. I'll share some of my challenges, but I know you've gone through a couple of iterations of your program, and it's been actually quite successful. So I'm going to hand it over to you. Margaret, give us a little bit background on who you are, what caused you to start your online program. Tell us a little bit about your program.
Yeah, thanks, Lynette. It's really great to be here with you. So I'm Margaret Vandergriff. I am the CEO of Your Place Finder. And the whole idea for Your Place Finder, which is finding your dream location in midlife and beyond, it all started when my daughter left the nest and I was chomping at the bit to just get somewhere different, do something different. And I can't say I went about it in the best way. It started out with me following my then husband up to this horrible town in West Texas. It all started kind of there. I sold my house in Austin, Texas, big bustling city, sold the house, left everything, went up to the middle of nowhere. Marriage fell apart shortly thereafter, and I fled to Lubbock, the closest city, which wasn't much better. I met my current husband, and we were like, we just have to get out of Lubbock. This is awful. It's so not us. And so we just got this silly bee in our bonnets that, we want to move to a small town in the Midwest. Like, that's what we want. And it wasn't really based on anything aside from just this kind of pie-eyed idea, which we just took and ran with. And I just headed out to Iowa, and I was like, I didn't really have a plan. I looked online and I was just kind of like, I don't know. It didn't really help me. I didn't have anyone to talk to about it that could be really constructive. Family members don't tend to be very constructive when you talk to them about this. If I wanted like an objective person, couldn't find one. So we ended up moving, and it all started there. Moved to this town, realized, what have we done? Looked around and went, but by that time, all that money had gone into it. All of the, we bought a house because I was like, nobody will accept us with 4 cats and a bunny rabbit. Let's just
from
buy
a rental.
House. Yes,
from a rental perspective.
Yes, no one would rent to us. And so I bought a house in this awful town, and I did it for all the wrong reasons. Good price, nice old house. Didn't really pay attention to the town, just really, I pretty much made every mistake in the book, which I now know. So ended up here, and I went, you know what? This has to happen to other people, and this is awful. This is awful. It's a social nightmare. It's you might as well be on Mars. I mean, it's horrible. And so I was like, I don't wish this on anybody. I want to help other women in my position who were thinking, I'm ready for adventure. I'm ready for something new. And then just, it just did not go. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And so I got to thinking about it, and I kind of retraced all the missteps I made. And I thought, hey, wait a minute. I've got some skills that I can apply to this that I totally ignored. Like, I have a strategic planning background. I am a grant consultant, so I know prospect research, which is, I do a lot of research. And I didn't apply any of that because I didn't know how. There was really no roadmap. And I was like, well, I'm going to develop this roadmap. I am going to create the roadmap so that other women in this position will have something to follow, a guideline, so that they're not going to go off and make a dumb moving mistake like I did. that is my mission, is to prevent that from happening, because I feel like everyone deserves to love where they live. I truly believe that. And that is sort of the basis,
Absolutely.
the foundation, for this business that I created.
Awesome. So the business is Your Place Finder, and it's targeted towards midlife women, but it doesn't mean that they're divorced or they're single. They could be in a relationship, but they're sort of leading the search, and you're working
Yes.
with them very intimately in terms of like, okay, nailing down kind of what is it that you kind of want in a city, that kind of stuff. So maybe take us a little bit through, like, just even like maybe the first 4 or 5 steps that you walk somebody through when it comes to searching for their place.
Yes. Well, the first and most important step is tuning out all of the static online and your friends and your family telling you, you should do this, you should do that, or just random people telling you, you should do this, you should check this place out.
Yeah.
Turn it all off, because it's not going to help you in the long run, and it could really actually just send you off down a bunny trail that you don't want to go down. So the first thing I say is, like, let's just focus on you. Let's just tune all the other stuff out, and like, we really need to get down to the bottom of what is it you want? What are you looking for? What is most important for you now? What do you envision for your new life in this new location? What is it that's going to take that to like this level of awesomeness that you're seeking and that I want for you? So the first step is really that. That is,
Right.
Because it's huge. Our tendency is to leap online at the slightest anything to look something up. So, the tendency is there, and I get it. I did it too when I first made my bad mistake. I was doing that too.
Or maybe you had a vacation and you were like, oh, I think I could live here, and then all of a sudden you're like packing things up and you're going and you're moving there, and oops.
Yeah, it's really about being intentional. It's really about kind of stopping yourself, and it's like making sure you're not acting on ideas, like your idea of things, assumptions that you've made, but they're actually grounded in reality, and they're grounded in what matters most to you, and not what you think matters. It's like you're honest with yourself. You have to be really like cued in to like, am I giving myself a bunch of BS? Or is this actually true what I'm telling myself? So it's like differentiation of like BS from not BS, really important. And just really digging down to the really thing is your priorities, your goals, your needs, your interests and preferences. All of those things go into this soup pot, and we stir it up and get it cooking. And that's sort of like the basis from which we create what I call your ideal place profile, which is like a dating profile for a place, basically.
There you go.
And
I love it.
so what you're looking for, so we outline these top, characteristics, and then I take that, and this is where my research comes into play, and I take the criteria, their ideal place profile is basically the search criteria I use, and then I go in and I put it into the filter and do all the research, and I come up with this very, very detailed, extensive research document that tells them, hey, based on everything we went through and what you told me and your ideal place profile, these places are your best bets. I mean, it could be 10 to 20 of them. And like, just take a look at them, spend some time, poke around on the links. Because the thing I do is like, I try to preserve, I don't want anyone going down bunny trails. So I try to make the report such that either the information is right on there, or there's a link that takes them directly to a page where the information is. So we kind of bypass
Love it.
all the nonsense out there.
I love it.
Yeah.
So Your Place Finder has gone through a couple of iterations. I want to just pivot now, because now I want to talk a little bit about you and standing up this side hustle, because I mean, obviously it was, something that was very close and intimate for you, because you had just finished making all these mistakes, and, your purpose was to make sure that other women just like you weren't making those same silly mistakes. Tell me about how you got started with the program, what was going through your mind, some of the roadblocks that you were bumping up against, because let's face it, as we mentioned earlier, standing up a side hustle or doing something else for, to generate some income isn't always easy,
No. And like you said, I mean, there have been a few iterations here. But okay, this is what's really, really funny is the first iteration of my business. My first iteration was called Harvest Moon Coaching, which tells you absolutely nothing. It tells you nothing. I know that.
Okay.
But what it was, I was like, because I just finished my coaching certification, and I was like, what do I want to coach on? What do I know? And I was like, oh, finding like the right place to live. But I kind of started out of being like, I was still like pie-eyed about living in a small town. I still thought, I hadn't had the aha moment, like, what the F have I just done? It was more like, oh, what about all those people who live in cities who also want to move out, to a small town or the country? I want to help people who are living in the city and they want to slow it down. It was like from city streets to easy street. That was like my little tagline.
Yeah.
And, and then I kind of reached a point where I was like, why am I doing this? When I had the realization that I don't want to help people. I mean, I want to help them if that's what they want, but that's not specifically what I want to focus on, because it doesn't really make sense for me to do that given how I feel about it. It's like, I'm happy if I'm not going to encourage it, in other words, but I'm going to say, hey, if that's what you want, and we've determined from all of our discussions that yes, you are like, this is exactly the lifestyle for you. So yeah, I kind of changed that up and I broadened it out, and I went, okay, then I just want to help people find, their perfect place to live. And it doesn't have to have any other qualifications on it. It's just helping them find the best place to live. And then it was like, it was too wide. Like I cast the net too wide. And so it wasn't like niched down enough. And so then, it went from being Harvest Moon coaching to being the moving coach. And then that didn't quite click either, because it was like, well, it's not just moving. I'm really helping people find the right location for them, and then, helping them plan, and make their move. But really the focus isn't so much the moving, it's on finding the place that's right for them. And so then we went through this whole process, and you were part of it, and had a hot seat with you. I remember that very well, and had this like,
yeah.
And I went, oh my gosh, I've got to change the name. It's got to be, and I went, Your Place Finder. It just came up. It was just like, boom. It was like no thought. It was right there. It was kind of magical, because usually I kind of, agonize over stuff. No agony. And it was just like, it fit, it clicked. And I was like, and I want to work with women in midlife and beyond, because that's my audience. That's the people that speak to me and that I want to work with. I mean, I really feel that this is a really important group of women to work with.
Okay. First of all, I love that story. I feel like I'm getting a tiny bit of feedback. So I love that story. So what I love most about that story is that you have never given up along the path. And it is a very, it's a hard path. It's a hard road. But you went through it. Let's back up a little bit. How many people out there go out and get a coaching certificate and get certified in their coaching? And, there's a lot of coaches out there. And I think the number one goal for you is that you realized that you had to niche down, and you had to really sort of hone in on what you are really not only good at, but really super passionate about. And I think that, a lot of people listening could say, okay, well, you know what, I want to go out and be a coach, and I have some coaching certification, or I'm going to start, or whatever. But it is getting super clear on that niche, because you can't cast a net to everybody. And that is sort of a sales 101, where we know that, you have, if you try to sell to everybody, you're not going to sell to anybody. And so I love that story of, you kind of niching down. And then it was when you and I met, is when it was called Your Moving Coach. Yeah. And I remember sharing a post of yours on Instagram, I think, and somebody had made a comment, oh, I can't wait I'm going to use her when I'm ready to move to Toronto. And that was a big aha, I think, for us as well, because I never once thought of it that way either, but it's because I knew your story. And so for in my Encore Life Academy program, you came in and we did a hot seat for you, and you did talk about that, where you sat down, you presented, your current realities, where you were trying to take your business, and the group gave you feedback. And at some point it was a bit radical feedback, but that is exactly the type of feedback that
awesome.
I think everybody needs. Yeah, and you have to be willing to okay, that was, but it did. It prompted you to make this pivot, and I've seen the growth in you since then with your Place Finder, and I love everything that you're doing there, and to be able to really continue to niche down doesn't mean that you can't serve others in that niche, but it's just, this is who you talk to every day. So tell me a little bit more now, what have you done with your program, because it is super niche, and how are you finding your clients? How are you getting out there and getting your Place Finder out to the world?
Well, and that is a really big, it's a big hurdle. It's just the getting it out there and getting it out to the right people. It's extremely challenging. I found that I've gotten clients through Pinterest, of all places, that seems to send people to my website, and the people that send people to my website who then go on to buy from me, interestingly enough. And then, I've had some bites with Instagram, but also the thing that I've kind of done to try to create, I hate to use the word funnel, but I guess it's kind of a funnel, of doing these free retreats. It's an online 7-day free retreat, and it provides a whole lot of great information, and then it is a way for people to, if they're interested and they feel like they want to take it further, then they can go on into my program. So currently I just have a one-on-one program. I'm in the middle of my own move, and so I'm kind of like trying to not bite off more than I can chew. So I'm kind of waiting to do the retreats and ramp everything up again until after we're settled in the new location. So the one-on-one program is going on now, and I'm getting ready this summer to have another free retreat, after which point, we'll be kicking off into the full program, which will be like a hybrid one-on-one group program that I'm creating.
Awesome. Yes. Awesome. I want to talk a bit about this. So you're currently still living in the house in the city or the town that you were like, oh my God, what have we done? And nobody would rent to us because of our kids, if you will. Your fur kids. And so this is, so tell me, how have you pulled yourself out of that? Because that's...
Yeah, well, what's really funny is I use the system I developed, which I call the Spark system. I used the system 3 years ago to identify my top place prospects. And I went on the scouting visit, and at 2.5 years ago, fell in love with Eugene, Oregon. And I was just all gung-ho. We were like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Came back, and, the idea was, okay, we have to get the house ready to sell. And so there were a few things to do. And while we were in the middle of doing those, COVID hit before we could actually get moved. And so we were like, well, maybe we should just kind of wait for a bit. And so we did. And then so we were ready the following year to get going. And then we had an electrical fire, and it gutted our main bathroom. And then it took 10 months to get fixed. It was just, it was a nightmare. So then we get to this year, just the end of last year is when they finally finished. And so we're like, okay, 2022 is the year. I went back, and I was just having a heck of a time with Eugene. I was just like, what is their deal? They're all just cat-hating people. Nobody wants to rent to anyone with more than 2 cats. I do not understand this rationale at all.
Okay.
But I was just like, well, that's a problem. And then I started digging back into my research, and I was like, oh, this thing isn't holding water like it did before. Like I was like, now all of a sudden it's a wildfire like risk area. Like it hadn't gotten up there yet. So like foolishly, I guess, I thought, oh, maybe it won't. But yes, now the wildfires have come up and they're surrounding that area. And I'm thinking that is not something I want to have to worry about. I don't want to be stuck inside because I can't go outside because of the smoke. I don't want to be worried about having to evacuate.
Mhm.
I don't want any of that. So I went back to my research, and I found that, because one of the things is the West Coast is really the focus for several reasons. One of which is my mom is in San Francisco. She's like 88 and she's still doing really great, but I just want to be closer than I am now. So that if I need to, I can just jump on a plane and boom, like be there shortly. But also just the West Coast. I grew up there. I miss it. I miss the ocean. And so knowing the whole time it was going to be on the West Coast and probably not California, just because I knew it probably wasn't going to be
Yeah.
California. I know California. And so we are now going to look at Tacoma, and not this next week, but the following week, I'm going to be going to Tacoma for my scouting visit and sharing a lot of that on Instagram for anybody who's interested.
That's awesome. So, okay, I love this. So basically what you're saying is, you work with your clients, you gather their requirements, you do some research, and based on that research, it is, you present some options for them to move to. The idea is to do some scouting, to do some, as I call it in my Encore Life Academy program, doing some testing on some of these, the new career, the new thing that you want to do. I love this. So it was COVID that prevented you from moving to your first location that you had taken yourself through, and then as it turned out, it's turning out to be possibly there's many leaks in the place. So silver lining in COVID, I guess,
and house fires,
and so in house fires and such. Yes, exactly. So many people that I know that are in their 50s and beyond, they do want to stay closer to family. In some cases, I have some friends who, absolutely won't leave a place because they want to be closer to their kids for grandchildren and all that kind of stuff. When you're working with your client, how do you help them prioritize certain things? Because we don't always, we've literally as parents, we've sacrificed most of our life for them, for our kids. And so how do you help them, kind of go through the sort of psychological barriers where it might be a parent that's getting older, like in your case, where your mom is, 88, she's, still healthy, but you want to kind of, be closer to her. So if I can't afford to get on a plane every single time I want to see my kids or, be closer to my parents, how do you help people through that? Because that can be a barrier, but it's truly deep in their heart. They don't, they want to kind of move somewhere else, but they have these blockages.
Well, I mean, if it's truly something that's a priority to them and, they really truly want to be closer, I guess I would say, well, think before you think about, having to be close to your grandchildren, your children, your grandchildren. Think about where they're located. Like, think about actually living in the place where they're living. Like, if you were to move there, would you be happy living there? I mean, your whole life is not going to be spent with your grandkids. All of your time, they have their own lives. They're going to be doing other things. You're not going to be there all the time. You have your own life. What do you want for your life? And you just need to make sure that wherever you are, maybe it'll be the same location. Who knows? Maybe they'll have exactly everything they want and need there. But if not, maybe consider, taking your radius out a bit, like being close but not on top of them necessarily. It's possible to be a driving distance and you're living in a place that gives you a lot more, fulfillment than if you were to live exactly where your kids and grandkids live.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. What challenges have you when you're working with your clients? What are sort of their first, 3 or 4 questions for you.
Wow. Questions for me?
Yeah, like because I think about, honestly, like I'm living right now in Playa del Carmen. I thought that this was the place for me. I get here and I think, okay, yeah, I love it here, but I still feel like there's something missing. And maybe it's just because psychologically I've planted it in my brain that I don't need to settle down anywhere for the next year or two until I've really traveled around and, as you say, scouted some locations. So what would you say to me, I guess, where I'm here now and I'm scouting this location and I may not be necessarily, now that I'm here, I don't know.
Well, I guess I would say to kind of dig down and go, what is it that's missing? Like obviously something's missing. I'm not sure what it is. And so it would be to determine what that is. What is it that you're needing? What needs are not being met? And to kind of dig more deeper into that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good because I have sort of figured out that I'm missing community, and I keep going back to the community that I had when I was living full time in Calgary, Alberta. And I mean, I don't necessarily miss Calgary, the place, but I definitely miss my community. And so that would be one thing I would say to anybody listening is, once you get to that ideal location and you found your place and, you've got Margaret helping you with the place, is really dig into a community pretty quick. Like try to find that group, whether it's through, sort of a regular yoga class. There's tons of women's groups down here. There's lots of Facebook groups that, promote women meetups and things like that. And so, yeah, it's definitely a community that I feel like I'm missing a little bit. And, that sort of that feeling of groundedness, because again, I'm still sort of in this mode of, I'm not really quite sure I'm going to commit to here full time. So, but yeah.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I found that you might think that people would really put a lot of emphasis on affordable, like, oh, I want a place with, more affordable, save the cost of living. But really what I find with clients and people that I talk to is just what's really important to them. It's the social aspect. It is the community aspect, like whether they want to move from where they are because they're not getting their social needs met. They want to move somewhere where they will have that. It's just been a really interesting to learn that about people. And it's true for me too. So I totally get it. The social part, we really can't underestimate it. Like we can't overestimate, what is the word? We can't put enough emphasis on it. I just think it's so important.
Absolutely. And I find even like when we're younger, I don't know, it feels like it's easier to find that community. But then we get older and it's hard to kind of break into some of the niches that are happening here, like maybe it's not niche, it's the cliques that are happening here. I mean, we get to this stage where, I'm a single woman, so I may not always be accepted into some communities either, because I could be considered a threat or whatever. I've faced that personally for sure, and and it's just I feel like it's harder. So that would be the number one thing, is like making sure that you really sort of work on what type of social aspects can this place bring to you that will feed your desire to be with people.
Absolutely. So. And that would definitely be folded into like a transition plan, so like before you even get there, you've got a plan for when you get there, jump right in. You have the plan.
So that's part of your program, the transition plan. So how do you sort of transition it into, that's great. Well, Margaret, you know what? You've been a real joy to have on the show today. I love everything that you're doing. It is super niche, but the word needs to get out on all the great things that you're doing, because I'm living it and I get, what it takes to pick up at the age of 52 years old and pack my stuff up, move my shit to, like, I'm living out of 2 suitcases right now. And it's like one suitcase is for cooler weather, one suitcase is for warmer weather. But I really love what you're doing, and I'll make sure to to post all of your where people can find you. So just maybe tell people where people can
I'd
find
love
you right
to.
now.
Yes, people can find me at my website, yourplacefinder.com. And pretty much any social media, I'm at Your Place Finder. Instagram, I'm primarily on. But yeah, you'll find me Pinterest and Instagram, Facebook. I think that's it for now. But yeah.
Perfect. And they can sign up for your upcoming 7-day retreat on your website.
Not
they can
quite.
find
I don't quite
information
have
about
it posted
there.
on my website. I have a separate link for that. And until I have some dates firmed up,
Okay.
I'm not going to be promoting it too much. But there will be one coming up this summer, probably later in the summer, just because the moving is going to be taking place probably in June. So yeah, it's a lot.
Perfect. Okay, well, they can follow you on Instagram, and they'll be able to get the updates there for when you're about to launch it. I did participate in that 7-day retreat. It was very, 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 very good. Little exercises every day, baby steps to get you started. So definitely well worth it. Well, Margaret, thank you so much. You've been such a pleasure to get to know over the past couple of years. You've been super supportive.
I love you too, Lynette. You have been awesome. And thank you so much for having me here. This is 50.
Thank you.